What became of my voice? What became of my voice? Where's my freedom? What became of my voice? Am I just another echo, lost in the noise? You promised liberty, you promised peace. Said this was a land where hate would cease. But I see the same lies, the same old game. Caught in the crossfire, upon the blame. I'm tired of being a victim of shame. Labeled and boxed, then tossed in the flames.
All I wanna say is they don't really care about us.
They don't really care about us. No, they don't really care about us. All I wanna say is that they don't really care about us. No, they don't really care about us.
They don't care about us. All I wanna say is they don't care about us.
NAACP, BLM, voices raised, names on the list. They say they see change, but we're caught in the mist. Red or blue tie, just different suits. Talking the same talk, they don't walk in our boots. Every debate, every press release, a stage performance, but where's the peace? Man, if King was here, he'd be marching still. He'd be seeing through the smoke, fight for real.
All I wanna say is they don't really care about us.
They don't really care about us.
Nah, they don't really care about us.
No, they don't really care about us.
All I wanna say is
that they don't really care about us.
No,
they don't really care about us. It just was really, it hits home, and it's obviously that they don't care about us.
They don't care about us. They don't care about us. They don't care about us.
See, some things in life they don't want to show. What's buried deep down, what's hid below. If Malcolm was here, he'd shout and fight. He'd see the same battle, he'd make it right. Everybody's mad, situation's tight. Tensions building, wrong versus right. Black or not, it's the news they sell. Slinging division, a story to tell. Kick me, push me, mark me as weak, but you'll never break me. My spirit won't leak. You can't twist the truth, painted in lies. One day we'll rise and open your eyes.
They took our history, but they can't take the songs of redemption.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing today? I hope everybody's fine, and hope everybody is, I hit the long one, oops, my bad. I hope everybody is good. I hope everybody is enjoying their Monday. You already know how we start this off. We start this off with independent music. And this morning I'm going to get into What Would You Do by the Urban Conservatives off my new album, Nation. And I really want people to get into it. I really did a lot of work. Circumstantial Saint did a lot of work. There was a lot of people that were behind the scenes doing a lot of work. And I want to give it up to Abstract Sam, Trip Young, Divine Marie, Lee Moore, Circumstantial Saint, Corel Wrights, XD Wolfie, and Silky Berry. You already know. So with that being said, here you go with What Would You Do? Left on the clock, ain't no sleep, no rest, I'm out here, I'm live. Look at the streets, the jungle's alive. Every block's a battlefield, where the strong survive, mind heavy, thoughts dark, I'm strapped with ambition. No space for second guessing, I'm on a mission. Minnesota got the air thick, tension so eyes on me, every corner I creep. Windows roll down, but the steel is tucked. Villainies on my brain, homie, it's that life or luck. Who gon' ride with me? Who gon' stand tall? These snakes out here, man, they prey on our fall. I pull up slow, engine humming, real moan glistening, got that gangsta gleam. I see an activist flexing for the talking change, but ain't seen what I see. He don't know this life, all he got is talk. I'm from the struggle, every step a heavy walk. Snatch his dreams, snatch his hope, take it all, watch his world crumble. As I rise and he falls, best strap tight like a second skin. No forgiveness, dog, I'm playing to win.
Sounds good, sounds good, sounds good, sounds good.
What you gon' hear about my pain? Best believe you will. What you do, man? What you do? My name.
grinding, pain deep in my soul. I ain't leave till I take full control. Haters in my sightline, they gon' feel the blaze. I've been counting the days, now I'm counting the ways. They laughed at me, try to push me down, but today they gon' face this turn around. Every sneer, every threat, gon' meet the fire. Now I'm a nightmare, worse higher. Minneapolis nights, street lights flicker, cold and dim. I move through shadows, ain't nobody see 'em. Enemies scatter, they know I'm around. I'm the wolf in the night, I don't make a sound. I carry the weight of 1,000 battles fought. Survival ain't pretty, but look what I brought. Streets taught me, molded me, made me strong. Now I'm here, showing them they was wrong. They said I wouldn't make it, said I'd fold under pressure, but now I'm the aggressor, no time for lecture. I'm hunting them down one by one. Every score I settle is another one done. I move with precision, aim sharp, mind clear. They gon' see their own reflection in terror. I'm the mirror they fear, truth they despise. Every room they give me, I rise and I rise. Ain't no glory in this game, this pain and scar. But I'm claiming my throne beneath the stars. I'm the man they ain't never wanna see shine. But I'm taking what's mine, ain't no denying. Ain't no denying. I'll leave the city shaking, streets in awe. Gone in 24, but they'll remember it all. See their faces, the fear in their eyes. They know this is it, the end of their lives. I move like a phantom, can't trace my steps. They gon' feel that heat, never forget. I've been too humble, too quiet, too I'm speaking loud, no need to sneak. I want them to know I'm the only one they should fear. I'm the ghost in their nightmares, always near. Every corner I turned, every punch I took led to this moment, now they shook. I'm taking names, writing my own script. Streets my stage, I don't never slip. I come from the bottom, deep in love, deep in love, deep in love, the trench. And now I'm swinging, jumping all them fences. I made my way through the struggle and the grind. Now it's my time, ain't no rewind, ain't no rewind. Every mistake I made, every time I fell, built me for this, now I'm raising hell, raising hell. I came for what's mine and I won't leave. Till they all bow down, till they all grieve. These streets raised me, I'm a child of the block. Grit and grind all day on the clock. I ain't never had no silver spoon, no handout, just a gun in a dream, trying to stand out. Now I'm standing 10 toes on the pavement, every breath I take, it's testament to my statement. I ain't no saint, but I'm far from a sinner. It's that man trying to make it, trying to be a winner. 24 hours, the clock is ticking, I'm moving fast, every second I'm gripping. I don't need no remorse, no second chance, just me, my drive, devil's dance. Enemies falling, bodies hitting the ground. Bodies hitting the ground, bodies hitting the ground. Every shot I take makes a louder sound. They said I'd never make it, never rise, but now I'm flying, touching the sky. I'll leave them all gasping, begging for air, but I ain't here to save them. But I ain't here to save them, ain't here to save them. I ain't here to care. I'm gone in the wind, like smoke in the night, but they'll feel my presence, they'll feel the bite. I'm the echo of the streets, the voice they ignore. Now they hear me loud, can't shut the door. I'm taking back what's mine, reclaiming my throne. A king in the jungle, but I roam alone. They said I was crazy, said I'd never last, but I'm leaving my mark, now my shadow's cast. They'll remember me, every face, every name, 24 hours, and I rewritten the game. I'm gone in a blaze, unforgettable fame, but best believe they'll all know my name. Best believe they'll all know my name.
My motherfucking name.
Know my name. Best believe they'll all know my name.
Urban conservative, conscious revolutionary, Leon Block. The circumstantial.
Fuck 12.
Fuck 12. Oink, oink.
What?
Oink, oink, piggy, piggy, we gon' make your life shitty.
Man, good morning, 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 and welcome to the Urban Conservative. Man, I got some shit to talk to y'all about this morning. So I want to get into burning promises, right? How broken policies and forgotten history ignite America's future. That's the one thing that I really took from, our past elders, our past leaders, is that, especially Malcolm X, right? Because if you don't understand your history and you don't know it, you don't know where you're going, because that's how they use the history, right? They use our Constitution, our doesn't matter if it's our United States, doesn't matter if it's our states individually, they use those things against us, right? And if we're not taught those, that's what I call it, critical race theory, right? Because a lot of individuals don't understand when I talk about, when there's, I see, and I flip, right? I go over to Facebook, to Twitter, to Instagram, and the posts are so much different, right? Um, it blows my mind, and it's like, damn, are really people really that ignorant, or that dumb, or that stupid, or are like, what, are not naive? Because I see a lot of individuals being fucked over by the system, and instead of standing up for each other, we're letting each other drown, because we all have our own stories. So why not make our story our glory? And that's why I want to get into Pam Lang, right? Pamela Lang. If you don't know her story, please, um, I will be sharing something. I'm going to share actually, you know what? Let me hold on. There's a change. There's a petition to get her rights, right? To get her the information that she needs, the data that, the sheriff is keeping from her in Wabasha County. So it makes me wonder, with everything going on in Minnesota, people want to talk about um, being different. But when are you going to let those words become action? When are you going to let those words become action? Because I really get tired, because that's the one crazy thing, right? You see these niggas, then, and I don't want to make it, here's the thing of it is, some people, it's very personal to me, right? Um, and I will say there's people like Pam Altendorf, right? She's in Red Wing, Minnesota. Um, I do go at Republicans, but me myself, I am a registered Republican, and I feel disenfranchised, because every time something happens, I remember when I was living in Red Wing, and Barb Haley, she was the district rep over there at that time. And this lady was like her and Steve Drzowski. So it's like, it's crazy when I'm in situations, even now with, Pam and Marcy, and especially with Wabasha County, is because it all goes back to certain names. It goes back to an attorney, a district attorney, a county attorney, who actually this is the crazy thing, and it's the small world, is like, when you start to realize is that people start talking, names start coming out, right? So the district attorney in Wabasha County is Matthew Stinson, right? So Laurel Stinson was actually the Red Wing City Council person at that time. She was one of them. But it all started making sense to me, is because how are you making deciding charges, and you're already included to this case, right? Because you have conflicts of interest, because your sister is on the council. So when it comes to bribery and other things, Mr. Stenson, and I think you were in the office. I don't know if it was like directly you. I know there was. I was getting a runaround in Wabasha, but it makes sense. But I want to get into um, Pamela Lang, right? I want to get into her story. So I'm going to put a QR code on the screen. Please scan it, go to it, read it, sign it, share it, do what you got to do, because until we all stand up, it'll keep on being like this, is because people, I feel like, are scared, and there's no reason to be. There's no reason to be fearful. There's no reason to be scared. It's the system. There's two choices, right? We all have choices. You can either face everything and run, or forget everything and run, or you can face them and rise. And I want to be around people that face it and rise. I don't want to be around track stars. I don't want to be around. I've already wasted so much time in this movement. And it's like, every time that I get somewhere, it's individuals, it's people that I least expect to be helping me, but they want to push me further. And I'm going to get there. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's one thing that I will get there. Whether people believe in me or not, I believe in myself. I believe in the team that I have. I believe in the people that are around me. So I don't care about everybody's opinion. I don't care about everybody's life perspective, because you haven't walked a mile in my shoes. You haven't walked a mile in your neighbor's shoes. You nigga, most of these motherfuckers don't even know their neighbors. Most of these people don't even know their community members. We have a bunch of, in my eyes, we have a lot of ignorant, naive people in America. It's because they don't understand that the system was built to make workers, not thinkers. I'm going to say that again, is that public education was built for workers to make niggas workers, which means it was built to indoctrinate us to be slaves instead of fighting for ourselves and being thinkers, right? Because everybody wants to be a blind follower. That's what I'm not understanding. Why is it that everybody wants to be a blind follower instead of coming to the truth?
Now, remember, this is a call that was based on a complaint that was filed by a parent of a volunteer at the daycare center. It's all third-party hearsay. The cops and the social workers enter without a warrant, and this is all verified through an email exchange that took place between Pam and the chief of police, Jason Tim, of the Plainview Police Department. And we're going to show you that right now. So while you're getting ready to take a look at that, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and comment. Those things all help. And I guarantee you, Pam and others will be very appreciative of your effort in doing that. So without any further ado, let's take a look. So as you can see here, this email is dated January 12th, 2023, which is nearly a year after the events took place. Pam sent an email filing a complaint with the chief of police, and Chief of Police Jason Tim, Plainview Police Department, says to Pam, this email is in response to a complaint you filed against CPS and the Plainview Police Department regarding your daycare investigation. 2 of my officers did accompany CPS at your residence at CPS's request. It is also very common that law enforcement is involved anytime there's a report of a potential criminal conduct that may result in charges. What you have here, folks, I'm going to say this one more time, read this one more time. It is also very common that law enforcement is involved anytime there is a report of potential criminal conduct that may result in charges. Chief Jason Tim of the Plainview Police Department is on record via email stating that he sent his officers there to this location to do a criminal investigation. They're criminally investigating. Well, you know what? That was a mouthful, but it's true. They are criminally investigating because they entered without a warrant.
Right.
But they're there to conduct a criminal investigation.
Right.
Without a warrant.
Without a warrant. Listen to the words.
But we're going to have a
matter.
couple of things in this very brief video that show just how egregious this violation of the constitutionally enshrined rights of Pamela Lang and her employees goes. It's a complete travesty of justice. So we're going to take a look here. So without any further ado, let's watch. Just keep in mind, the chief is on record admitting this. Now, this first 30 seconds of this video show the officer approaching for a second time to enter the home. There's already an officer, and you guys will recognize this fat pig.
I want people to watch.
And I have no problem saying that.
Interactions
he is a fat pig.
He's
a disgrace.
And DHS and
that's really hard to do, but he is a disgrace
in
to
the
law
police
enforcement in the state of
department Minnesota, right?
He's probably a great representative of policing in
Watch
Plainview, Minnesota.
Specific words.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car. Okay, you ready? All right, 100.
Basic. Let's take a look at this. And listen very carefully.
I see you. I see you, Todd. I see you, TC. I'm just playing.
Downstairs. You listen to any of that, fellas? It was the kid? No, it was, they read the plate wrong, and they thought it was a stolen vehicle. So they said sit on it, but I know this is a lot for, yeah.
Fat ass probably had to go and get a donut.
It's so funny coming from TC because
It's very
you-
important that you listen here very
we're really
carefully.
quiet.
And the captions will be on, so make sure that you're reading the captions as well, because the social workers are about to make an admission that will blow your mind.
Right. I agree with TC. It'll blow your mind.
Infant or toddler in a pack and play, and there is a blanket over top of it. We will need to take that down. That is, can't have a blanket over it. Even with us down there, I thought we could down there. I'm not sure. Is somebody down there?
Credit to Bobby pointing out the fact that she would have been down there observing the child had social services not shown up on a hearsay call to attack Pam and her daycare. I mean, this is an attack, folks. This is absolutely an attack. No matter which way you look at it. You may not like the fact that I'm pointing this out, and I don't really give a damn if you don't. But the truth of the matter in this situation is anytime your constitutionally enshrined natural rights are violated, it's an attack on you and your person.
Right.
This is a violation of your private property rights.
Right.
This is a violation of you being secure in your person's papers and effects. But they don't care. This is an attack. It's an attack all the same.
Right.
I was down there and she called me away, so then I had to down there. Okay. Damn it! I guess I did the licensor specifically tell you that that's okay?
Pam? Blanket over bug, they told us that would be fine.
Also, keep in mind that Pam is hours away, which she's entitled to do. She's entitled to take time off.
Right.
Pam's hours away. She's under the impression that she has a fully staffed daycare, which she did. And now they're asking all these questions about a blanket over a pack and play.
Fine, as long as someone's down there.
I'm down there all the time. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because otherwise she stands up and
Okay.
that's the only way we can get her to take a nap.
All right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So we will.
This speaks to a daycare that absolutely knows the individual personalities and quirks of
Their
their
kids. Right.
children that they're supervising and caring for. Bobby just said, if we don't do this, she won't take a nap. They know these kids very well. They know these kids so well that they know what each one of them needs to be able to take a nap. And the child needs a nap. And they call her Bug, which is an affectionate term. I feel so bad for Bobby here. These people are monsters, but now is
And again,
the point
these
where
aren't
you
black
need
people.
to really listen.
Nobody
to
in this is an African American, an immigrant, or any
Tyrants
of that.
say.
These are people that were already in this country.
two.
So we will go out and we will call the parent, and
Okay.
then we can kind of go from there. It
So
sounds like
I'll
for
get
right.
butts.
So for right now, there's not a suspension in place. We do need to gather more information.
Did you
before we
catch
make a
that?
decision on that.
The last video, they said that they were there to serve a temporary immediate suspension. But now they just admit on body cam there is no suspension in place. Listen to this.
Right.
We do need to gather more information before. So for right now, there's not a suspension in place. We do need to gather more information before we make a decision on that. And that,
Folks, everything they gather at this point, because they have entered this place illegally without a warrant, with no constitutional authority, no sworn affidavit, no judge signing off on a warrant saying that there is probable cause to believe that a crime has been committed. Everything they gather at this point is fruit of the poisonous tree. Absolutely fruit of the poisonous tree. But they don't care.
Right.
Why?
Because they just want to convict
they're
you.
tyrants.
Mm-hmm.
It gets worse from
I
here.
don't care about the little guy. And that's crazy.
and that
You know that
includes
people don't care about us.
interviews with everybody. I mean, anybody can make a report on anybody. we
Anybody can make a report on anyone.
anybody. Right.
Folks, that should terrify you.
Yeah.
You can lose everything because anybody can make a report on anyone.
You know, the whole report thing, man, I don't know how many times I've gone through this, right? The whole report thing. And it baffles me. I shouldn't say it baffles me, right? Because what is the easiest thing that you're going to do to try to deter somebody, right? Attempt to stop them from doing what they're doing, right? So that means making false reports. I went through it in Red Wing, especially in Red Wing with, People that were, this is the crazy part for me, is that you have people that were part of the HRC that are still a part of the HRC, like Beth Burdine, and call my PO and make false reports. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how can you work with people that say they want to change the system, but then every time somebody else that's, I'm not saying that you haven't done your fair share. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, why are you making it harder for the people with no voices that have, you're a homeless advocate. You're a person that works with the homeless. You're a person that is supposed to be working for the city, but yet you work for the people, but yet you lie on the people. It doesn't make any sense to me now. It's like the same thing. And, it comes to politics. We go to these officials and yet we're given the runaround, and yet we're supposed to vote for these kind of people when they lie to get justice, or what seems like justice. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, we have to go through the ends of the world to try to be able to prove the truth and prove what's right. And it's crazy to me, of like, you see this every day, and Pam isn't the only story in Minnesota. She's not the only injustice in Minnesota. It's all over the world, and it's going to take all of us to come together, and that's what's crazy. And again, I'll say it again, when you have people that don't care, where's Kim? That's what I'm saying, is like, people have to put aside, because it's not going to get better. It's not going to get better if we ignore it. And that's the one thing that I will say. It's not going to get better if we ignore it, because the next story that I'm going to talk about after this about Pam is about Red Wing. You know what I'm saying? It's about the treaties. I'm going to put it out here too, because I'm going to talk about this next. It's like, if people don't know, this is the whole point of this, right? Was to show people like, hey, right? It was the lessons of history, because we already had a whole treaty. We had a whole treaty of Traverse Des Sioux History Day. Why doesn't nobody talk about it? And it goes into it because I see people like Hanish Bakery, right? That I don't want to get too far in it, but I just want to say is that there's a lot of things that people, if we don't know history, if we don't understand something, we don't know where we're going. We don't know where we're going, because at the end of the day, this was something, a treaty. This treaty was signed way before any of us were ever thought about, any of us were ever born, any of that shit. So how can we understand something that was already signed? The words, oh shit. Somebody messaged me. I was tripped. But yeah, it's like, it's crazy as hell. So with that being said, man, I'm gonna get back to Pamela, and please go sign the petition, go share the petition, and make sure that she gets transparency and justice in this case, because she hasn't. She's been lied to. She's been bullied by a system that is supposed to be fair. It's not supposed to choose sides. It's supposed to go by the law. And until we understand that, we'll never get to there.
And they can come, social services, cops, whoever, they can just come investigate you and take everything from you. And admit there is no suspension order in place. That's the social services. Not to mention the fact that the fat-ass cop and his skinny, dorky partner entered illegally.
The fat-ass police.
Need to go through with the interviews and with the investigation before we make a decision on anything.
No suspension in place.
Yeah, he'll stay there. We need to add one more. I forgot. Don't do birds.
Nope. He's about ready to take off.
That's his safe spot, so he don't eat there. Lila Johnson.
Now watch this sneaky bitch. I'm gonna just take a picture. Right? They're just looking for something, anything they can. Bird's no harm to anybody. I've seen dozens of videos of this bird. He's not hurting anyone. He has no desire to hurt anyone.
In mom house, girl.
You guys been in the garage yet?
No.
Did you hear that? The cop just said, have you guys been in the garage yet? He's fishing for a reason to get into this garage, and that'll come up in the next video, because we're going to end it here in just in a couple of minutes. But he's fishing to get into that garage. And that's bad enough because, once again, this is all fruit of the poisonous tree. But what he's about to do when he walks down the stairs is terrifying when it comes to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and to being secure in your person, property, papers, and effects.
I have no idea. Did you
I
walk
went
into the garage?
downstairs. I don't know where the garage is.
It's right by the door to the right of the.
Am I the only person that has a problem with literally 98% of the people who are here on behalf of the state, the government? They're all obese cows. And once again, I don't fat shame every single individual in their private lives. But every single person here, outside of the skinny nerd who probably got beat up in high school and junior high and is a cop because this is his way of getting back at everybody that picked on him. From the other cop that he was here with to these fat ass social workers, they're all fat. It's because they're sucking off the tit of the taxpayers.
Hi, buddy.
Eddie! God!
I'm always doing things I shouldn't be doing. Ooh, Eddie, but get Eddie.
Yeah. Stop!
I'm not paying attention. Let me get off my phone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. People were messaging. I'm sorry. I need to stop that.
Stop that for a second so he don't come.
Then I get unfocused. And I want to educate people. So let's go back to Pam. Let's go back to
Did that
Pam.
scare you a little bit? I will protect you. I will be your nerdy knight in shining armor.
This nigga ain't gonna do shit. He a scary ass bitch. He a scary bitch. I don't like these police and out there as they trip me out.
Yeah,
Watch the cop here.
I gotta get kids up and butts changed.
His butt's changed.
Yep. So I'll call you back here in a little bit. All right. Bye.
Did you get his ID yet?
Get what?
Does she assist?
I want to point out too that I have multiple testimonies from multiple parents that the reason why they brought their kids to Pam's daycare was because of the animals.
Right.
I want everybody to understand that. Every single parent that had their child at Pam's daycare had them there because they knew about the animals and the kids loved the animals. That's why this is so important. They're going to try and make something of these animals.
Right.
Babysitting and helping with the daycare.
Not normally. Today.
The cop just asked about the young man who's sitting downstairs because he filled in without any notice because they'd pulled Bobby away from her job. Now watch what this cop does.
He is because I was with you guys.
Good job, Bobby. Good job, Bobby, pointing out that this is all their fault.
Yes.
Never mind. Just listen to this cop.
Since you're helping today, can I see? Do you have your ID on you?
Just got it.
Since you are helping today, do you have your ID on you? Now, keep in mind, the chief of police, Jason Tim, has already admitted this was a criminal investigation, which means he's identifying the minor child of Pam as part of a criminal investigation, which is opening the door to questioning. So he's about to question this. He's already started to question this young man without the benefit of his mother being present or his father being present. He's identifying this young man as part of a criminal investigation without a parent involved. So much wrong about this. And it all goes back to them entering the home illegally. This whole problem stems from them taking a third person call, hearsay call, and reporting to the home to conduct an unlawful search because they have no warrant, and now it's unlawful questioning, and it's unlawful questioning and identification of a minor child who has nothing at all to do with the investigation. And Bobby's about to point out that the other helper left and left them hanging. And that's the helper that reported to their mother, that then reported to CPS that there were problems at the daycare. Hearsay.
He's got his license.
in the car, but I got my permit on me, if that works. Yeah, perfect.
Cadence, she's a helper too. Yep, Cadence, and then that's Caitlin.
What you're seeing here one more time is a reminder that the chief of police, Jason Tim, knowingly sent officers to a home to conduct an investigation that had absolutely nothing to do with the Constitution. They completely violated the constitutionally enshrined natural rights of Pam and her minor son and Bobby and other daycare workers. Everything from the minute that fat-ass swine, Kevin, entered the house
I need to get off my phone
without a warrant is now fruit of the poisonous tree. And they still manage to destroy Pam's life. They still manage to completely wreck her livelihood and took from her everything that mattered to her. Are you pissed off yet?
Right.
Wabasha County
I hope
residents?
so. I hope everybody
Are you
in-
pissed off yet? Plainview residents? Are you pissed off, residents of Minnesota? Are you pissed off, Americans? Because this is happening everywhere. This is happening in every jurisdiction across every part of the United States, constantly. But you don't care. You continue to chant back the blue and law and order,
Right.
thinking you're a patriot for it.
And they're not. That's the whole crazy thing. People.
Well, you're not.
Right.
You're a bootlicking statist. And if this doesn't piss you off, you're part of the problem.
Right. And that's the whole thing of it is we have so many people that are afraid of the
So until next time, my friend.
the system, who are afraid and don't be. That's the whole thing that's wild to me, is like, why be afraid of something that you don't know, right? But if you did know, you would definitely do better. I think if we educated people to do better, we would do better. So I want to get into a documentary that I found about the treaty. And Traverse Day Sioux History Day. And I think that it's something that we need to discuss. And it's something that I'm going to bring up and I'm going to continually bring up, because it's not about making people mad. It's not about, I understand y'all didn't own no slaves. All right. I understand that, people, but it's about, we don't understand where we're going. We don't understand where we're going if we don't know our history. If we don't know our history, how the hell can we change certain behaviors, certain actions about the future, about the present? Because I understand that, like, being in Red Wing made me realize when I started writing, authoring, I guess that's what they call it, authoring, my resolution proclaiming racism a public health crisis. I started realizing my research, and that's when, because a person came up to me in Red Wing, right? And they seen my drive, they seen my wheel. And Kent Logan, I got to get up to Kent, because if it wasn't for Kent Logan, because he did all of this for free, he pointed me to city charters. He pointed me to the Minnesota Constitution, America's Constitution. And then I started to understand why we got rid of certain things, of like requirements of, being able to do cursive, being able to do basic mathematics, even a basic reading level, because most of these people don't even understand what we're talking about. When you talk about city charters, right? And then you're like, wait, what do you mean a city charter? Well, anything that is done inside of a city, no matter if it's your zoning, no matter if it's your, the way your streets are set up, no matter your committees, your ad hoc committees, public works, your departments, everything has got to go through that city charter. And if you don't understand it, so that's why I always go back to it. And even with what's going on, and I'm gonna get into this later too, is what's going on at the state capitol. You have to go back to the Constitution. And that's why so many people aren't really interested in this. But I believe if they read the Constitution and they read what's going on, they would understand and see what's going on. They would be worried. They would be concerned because it matters to them, because you vote for these people. You vote for these people to get into office. So with that being said, man, I want to get into the lessons of history. When we know better, we do better. The Treaty of Traverse des Sioux, History Day. So please listen, man. Listen and learn. You know what I'm saying? Because I have learned. I think this is beautiful, and I love to learn because when we know better, we do better.
This is the place where the Dakota tribes met year after year,
century after century,
to exchange goods and ideas.
This is the place where their lives all change.
With the signing of one small treaty,
the Treaty of Traverse des Sioux.
The Treaty of Traverse des Sioux could have been a very successful treaty had the United States government followed through on all that they had promised.
Because the government didn't do what they promised, the Dakota people staged an uprising, which led to the devastating deaths of both white and Dakota people. The nomadic Dakotas met together once a year to exchange goods, ideas, and other things of value at a place they called Oyuije, meaning the place of crossing.
The fur traders renamed this place Traverse des Sioux, meaning crossing of the Sioux. The Dakota did not have a concept of owning land as we do now. They lived on a philosophy of sustainable sustenance, in which they only took from the land what they needed to survive. This allowed abundance off of the land for generations to come.
The fur traders benefited greatly from this land in terms of trade. Every fall, the Dakota would receive the goods that they needed, and in the spring, they would pay these people back with furs.
The Dakota relationships with the fur traders became so intimate that many fur traders took on Dakota wives and were welcomed into the tribe by the ceremony of Hunka. The Dakota assumed that because the fur traders were now relatives, they could be trusted, and in turn, they were to trust you.
In the 1840s and 50s, the United States government encouraged the fur traders to rack up immense debts with the Dakota. By 1851, the Dakota owed so much money that the traders only gave them limited goods. Also in the late 1840s, the demand for furs was lessening, so the traders wanted the Dakota's land and money to repay their debts more than the furs. They informed the governor, Henry Sibley, of this, and he immediately saw the advantage of interceding.
However, Sibley had to get the consent of the government. He told them that now, the Dakota were confused, starving, and desperate for goods, so they were in a weakened condition and would be more likely to sign a treaty. With a little bit of pressure, Sibley got the government to negotiate a deal with the Dakota that became known as the Treaty of Traverse des Sioux.
No one today truly knows what happened on the day of the treaty signing, for every source is biased in a different way.
The best way to understand what truly occurred that fateful day is to listen to the people who were there on the 23rd of July in 1851. When we signed the treaty, the traders threw blankets over our faces and darkened our eyes, and got us to sign papers we did not understand, which were not read to us or explained to us. Traders are the greatest curse of the Indians and the curse of the nation, for they boast that they can control Congress and have done it.
The commissioners having first signed the treaty, the chiefs stepped forward in rotation and touched the pen which the secretary used to indite their names. Some few who had been instructed by the missionaries wrote their names, and many prefaced their signature with a short speech.
The Sioux Treaty will hang like a curse over our heads for the rest of our lives. Hercule Doman to Henry Sibley, 1851.
Now, we will attempt to recreate that fateful day where the future of the Dakota changed forever. It was July 23rd, 1851 at Traverse des Sioux, Minnesota Territory. The sun shone brightly, turning the dew on the trees into sparkling diamonds. Dakota children laughed and played in the long sweeping grasses, sometimes playing football, a Dakota version of the modern-day soccer. The entire mood of the village is light, for today they are signing the Treaty of Traverse des Sioux, which after weeks of negotiating is finally finished. The negotiating between parties was long and drawn out, but it had its perks for the Dakota people. The treaty has now been set. It cedes land to the U.S. government from the southwestern portions of the Minnesota Territory that belong to the Dakota. The Dakota receive $1.6 million in cash and annuities, rations of flour, sugar, salted pork, as well as tools, new land, and shelter.
After some time, these payments ended. As we can see from what Frank Blackwell Mayer stated so many years ago, many of the Dakota chiefs were illiterate. This put the Dakota chiefs at an extreme disadvantage because they were at the mercy of their interpreters.
These interpreters were often fur traders who had taken on a Dakota wife and were fluent in both English and Dakota. Because of this disjointed way of communication between the United States and Dakota, it was only too easy for the traders to take advantage of the Dakota's willingness.
You know, that's the whole thing to me of, right? Because a lot of people don't understand the Astor family, right? They don't understand that there's the Rothschilds, there's the Astors, there's so many legacy families, generational families that have played a part in how our policies are played out today. It's generational. You know what I'm saying? And that's the one people call me a conspiracy theorist. They call me crazy. But 9 times out of 10, the shit I talk about comes true. It comes true. And I stopped wavering and second guessing myself because I believed in myself. I believed in what I was talking about. No matter what, if people didn't believe what I was talking about, I believed. Right? And what is happening? You're seeing chaos. You're seeing chaos. Chaos. You know what I'm saying? You're seeing total chaos, and it's crazy to me, right? Total chaos. And it makes me wonder, what are people in this for? Are you in it to just for fame and clout? Or do you actually want to get things done? Because I want to get things done. I'm tired of living like this. I'm tired of being judged for something that happened 30 years ago and that people still do to this day, and nobody judges them. People let individuals live freely. That's all I want. I want peace and unity. I don't want to be looked at any differently. I'm really a history buff. So anything that had to do with Bluff Barn or, Jeremiah Patterson or Eli Fields or, sources to the Historical Society or Goodhue County. And I found a lot of things, it was during that there was a lynching in Red Wing that nobody wanted to talk about. But then when you went and looked at the sources in archived newspapers, and then when you bring up certain newspapers, because then it brought up William Colville, who wasn't a nice man, but yet was a Democrat. And they uplift him, but they never want to talk about the evil that this man did. That's the one thing, is that we can talk about Alpha News, but let's talk about the harm that they do to our community. And I understand that that's somebody that follows me on Twitter. I understand that. And sometimes I need to make it clear to people, just like I had a conversation with Pam yesterday, Altendorf, the representative from Red Wing. Mine is never personal to you, and I got to say that again, because anytime that I call you, Pam, you come, you listen, you let me talk. I understand that there's not much you can do. I know you're one person, but you're one person that I believe in that can change. I don't believe you're a part of whatever the establishment. I think you do want change. I do believe that you're not caught up in a political wheel and you do want change. That's why I go to you. I stopped believing in Walter. I stopped believing in Paul because they had links, they had connections to wrong in the past that hasn't been corrected to this day. So why would I believe in people that keep on talking about shit, but they never get nothing done? You're a new representative this last session, in the bi-medium. You had no control. You were in a trifecta with no power. And I understand that. That's like the whole thing of when I went to the state capitol with you and Walter, and we talked about a fraud committee, because I was like, how can like Paul Wellstone and all, and like Sharif and them go up there and talk about all this drugs in their communities and guns and all this and the violence, and we can't do any of that shit here. And then they had subpoena power. So why can't we do that in Minnesota? Why can't we make a committee and to look at all this fraud? And now it's 2025 and they're finally getting around to it. Better late than never. But that they didn't get that idea. That didn't come from them. That did not come from them. They probably had an inkling, some thoughts, but that's the one thing I want to see how this goes, because I know that this is something that I really pushed hard for, and me and Robert, we to this day, you know what I'm saying. I got to give Robert a lot of, hey, because if it wasn't honestly for Robert, I wouldn't have got a lot of this done. If it wasn't for Jula Dora, I wouldn't have been able to know sources, because I didn't know nothing about archived information or historical societies, and the fact that there was a fire, so they got rid of the census records from a certain time period. So if you were looking for lineage records, or you were looking for records of like different things, there wasn't nothing to look at because the census was gone. So when I looked up the history of Red Wing and understood that, they had a black teacher at Red Wing, but yet nobody talks about it because it's hard to prove, because the census records were lost in the fire. And then our federal legislators got rid of, because I don't know, it was a period of time that our legislators met in Congress and voted to get rid of it. They only had some of it, but they voted to get rid of it. And I think that is part of the reason why that people don't honestly get it, is because we've erased so much of history, and we want to be critical about it. That's why be critical and just tell the truth. You know what I'm saying? Is like, you're making it harder for people to understand history and to move forward to greatness. To move forward to greatness. I'm gonna say that again. Move forward to greatness.
To comply with the United States.
From what can be drawn from the few less biased sources, the traders did indeed take advantage of the Dakota in a substantial way.
We go back to the word of Chiefs Curlyhead and Red Iron, as well as those of Secretary George Day, and can truly understand how the treaty began to slowly fall into devastating ruin. Father, you think the treaty is a great deal you were given
when we
for this
signed
country?
the treaty, the
I don't
traders
think
put
so.
blankets
For both our
over our
lands and all we
faces,
get from
darkened
them
our
will go to
eyes,
the
and
white
got
man.
us to sign
The money
papers we
comes
did
to
not
us, but
understand,
we'll all
which
go
were
to
not
the
read
white
to
man
us
who
or
trades
explained
with
to
us.
us. Examine this picture carefully. This was painted as an accurate depiction of the signing of the treaty. However, it only shows the one legal table, totally ignoring the illegal table that should be to the left of it.
Somewhere in the process of setting up the signing of the treaty, the fur traders managed to corrupt Sibley and other government officials to allow them to create their own document and usher the illiterate Dakota over to sign it.
Sadly, none of the literate were ushered over to the table accidentally by the traders, for it would have saved not only the success of the treaty, but also the many devastating deaths of hundreds of Dakota and white men. The traders' papers wrote away most of the Dakota's annuity money and led to the failure of the Treaty of Traverse des Sioux.
2 reservations, 20 miles wide and 70 miles long, were set aside for the Dakota.
The Upper Sioux were satisfied because their new land contained some of their old villages, but the Lower Sioux were frustrated and resentful because they were moved from their original land completely. Still, they were happy to have land, food, and money, so they kept their jaws clamped tightly shut.
Because of the traders' papers, the Treaty of Traverse des Sioux mostly was a failure. However, it has a few small successes that cannot be overlooked.
This treaty enlarged the Minnesota Territory so much that it eventually became a state in 1858. This acquired land became available for settlers through the Homestead Act of 1862.
Right.
Also, the United States proved that they could obtain new land without any casualties while gaining said land. The Treaty of Traverse des Sioux was a failure for many reasons. Now we will listen to Dakota affected by the treaty to better understand why.
They made us many promises, more than I can remember, but they never kept but one.
Right.
They promised to take our land, and they took it. Chief Red.
Wow. That's true, though.
I can see nothing, as nothing is to be seen. When the treaty was written, I thought it was for the good of my people.
Right.
You have explained it, and we understand it, but it has not been fulfilled, and we bow our heads and are quiet. We see nothing but promises. Flatmouth, August 26, 1856. In August of 1862, the payments are overdue by many months. The Dakota are hungry and the children are crying for food. Now we consult historian Andrew Timmer to help us understand the consequences of the Treaty of Traverse des Sioux.
So the U.S.-Dakota War of 1862 was really a kind of thing that had been led up to for many years. The Treaty of Traverse des Sioux in 1851 was the first of many kind of dominoes that fell and started the process of the U.S.-Dakota War. Basically, in August 1862, a group of Dakota people rose up and decided to take back the lands that they felt had been taken from them illegally during the Treaty of 1862. After the payment stopped happening, these Dakota people decided to rise up and take back their lands. They knew the Civil War was going on, knew they could probably take back these lands fairly easily. And then you have about a 2.5-month uprising where many whites and Dakota people are killed, or it's also called a war. And this led to the subsequent trials and hangings of 26 Dakota people.
This tribe, with peace and friendship in the meaning of its name, was driven to war by one small treaty.
However, without the Treaty of Traverse des Sioux, we may not be standing here today in the beautiful land of Minnesota, United States of America.
Man, that's crazy. It's crazy how such a history that people don't know about, but yet can link, because here's the crazy thing, right? Is that a lot of people maybe don't know about the 38+2 is understanding the Dakota uprising. It has to do with the Treaty of Traverse, because it restricted the Dakota Sioux lands in Minnesota to a strip of land 20 miles wide and 150 miles long. Right? We have to understand where all this came from, is because our country, no matter if we want to get mad at people, here's the one thing that I want people to understand, right? And I want to play this video because they spoke about something that would happen about with this treaty, with Treaty Traverse, right? And I want to get into, because one of them is a small business owner. He is a right-leaning there's a little cookie poll or whatever in Red Wing, but I want to get into Bill Hanisch, is because he was paying for people that were being fined to do graffiti on Barn Bluff. They used to be able to do graffiti, right? The women's team and from the track and all this stuff. So now I understand why when the Red Wing Public Schools did Wigger Days, and not many parents stood up, I understood why. Is because these motherfuckers are okay with disrespecting something that they know not a goddamn thing about. And it frustrates me, is because people sit here and they sit by and they allow other motherfuckers to get over on them because they don't know any better. They don't know any better. But then you make the motherfuckers out here that do know better seem like they're crazy, because we know you're getting fucked over. But yet, because you don't want your pride or your ego's too fucking big, you don't want to look in the mirror, but like, you know what, bro? Dog, you was right. We got fucked over for a very long time. And you know what? Let's stand up. Let's do this together, because it's never too late. It's never too late. Why do we have to keep on living in shit and paying for shit and paying for these motherfuckers to keep on killing us? Because that's where our taxes go. They go to kill niggas. They kill to do wrongs, injustices, and yet we pay these motherfuckers their salaries, and we can't never get no transparency. We can't never get no justice. And that's crazy as hell to me.
All right, I'm going to try to get this in 3.5 minutes. I'm watching. Good evening. My name is Bill Hanisch, and I reside at 410 West 3rd Street, downtown Red Wing. The history of the bluff that casts a large shadow over Red Wing is quite interesting. Native Americans and first settlers used the bluff as a lookout point to see far up and down the valley. They used the bluff to watch for the first steamboats to arrive from the south in the spring with much anticipation. Later, the bluff was quarried, and much of the limestone was used to build the town of Red Wing. In 1907, the citizens put a halt to this that they called defacing the bluff, and in 1910, it was donated to the city of Red Wing as a park. Now, when the deed was drawn up in 1910, the word defacing, I'm going to assume, meant slightly different than what would think of defacing.
See, that's my problem. This fat motherfucker doesn't know history, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. The treaty was signed in 1851, and it's still fucking valid. It's the fact that you're white privilege, and the fact that you're white, so you feel like you're right, you can do whatever the fuck you want. No, it's not like that, my nigga. It's not like that. And I'm so tired. I'm so tired, because when people don't know their history, they don't know where the fuck they're going. And can't we understand is that most of our leaders do not know history, so we're led into chaos. We're led into bullshit instead of calling it out because we're too afraid. And that's crazy to me, because niggas get comfortable and they got their own reparations, and it's fuck the world. And that's crazy to me.
Today, seeing as paint was merely 50 years old in that time and spray paint was a few years off in the distance. I highly doubt that in 1910 they thought the process was to stop would-be artists on the bluff. It was more about the overall destruction of what might have been the end of our famous bluff. The bluff stood much unchanged after this, with some local companies posting signage up on the bluff, and in 1929 the local Kiwanis group building the first stairway to the top of the bluff so locals could enjoy the magnificent view. But in the late 1950s, they were demolished along with much of the beautiful bluff to make way for the new bridge and expanded Highway 61, thus creating the area we are discussing this evening. The Kiwanis did end up restoring portions of the stairway in 1983, which was to use today to get to the top of the bluff. Now, back to the area we're going to discuss, the artistic portion of the bluff. For many years, people have gazed up to see what is on the side of the bluff. Now, I don't want to use the term billboard, because to me, that's commercial and it involves money. I would use the word canvas. Now, there are a few definitions and uses of the word canvas, but one that struck out to me was this: the background, setting, or scope of a historic.
Now, I'm going to read something that was, I'm going to read that treaty to you, right? I'm going to read a little bit for you so you can understand what this was and why these niggas lied, right? Why the county lied, because where their city hall sits, where the city government building in Red Wing sits, is where Jeremiah Patterson's family had a business. A black family had a business where the city government hall. And the crazy thing of it is, they don't tell people that the Jeremiah Patterson and his family owned it. They don't tell you that they were black, right? They don't even tell you that there was a business, but there's a picture in the city hall that shows the business. So when I went to the historical society, and I was like, wait, Jeremiah had a business. So there's a picture, right? I went outside, I went down the street, and I was like, wait. So I looked up, and I was like, I put the picture from then, and then because it's got the bluff in the back and all that, and I was like, wait. So you mean to tell me that where City Hall is sitting right now is where Jeremiah Patterson's family's business was? So if people don't understand where they're going, this is why America is so fucked up, right? So I want to begin with, the preamble begins with articles of a treaty made and concluded at Traverse des Sioux upon the Minnesota River in the territory of Minnesota on the 23rd of July, 1851, between the United States by Luke Leah, Commissioner of Indian Affairs, and Alexander Ramsey, Governor and ex-official Superintendent of Indian Affairs in a said territory. Commissioners duly appointed for that purpose, and seeing, I just know the Dakota and Sioux. I don't want to really mess up the other ones because they're tribes, they're bands of, they're Dakota and Sioux. But the treaty with the Sioux insistent and Wapton bands in 1851, the terms of the treaty were peace and friendship shall be perpetual. Land they would secede the land. They would be stricken out by the U.S. Senate. Payments and other payments held in trust. Laws against liquors and Indian country. And here's the big one is that rules and regulations to protect the rights and persons and property among the Indians. So why is it okay for individuals? Because they don't understand that our ancestors who made it possible for us to be here today and live, we have to respect history. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if you don't understand history, you don't know where you're going. And I understand of like when Nikki Buck and Treasure Island, but here's my thing of it is too. You can't be out here crying wolf if the wolf is out here doing bad shit. And I'm going to say this again. You can't be out here crying wolf if the person calling is doing bad shit. I think I said it wrong the first time. Because at Treasure Island, there's numerous people that are arrested for drugs. I used to go to get when I used to buy pills, and here's the thing, I didn't know nothing about the whole fentanyl thing, you know what I'm saying, and all that, but I used to sell pills to, you know, some content creators like Stuart Peters and other motherfuckers, because nobody cared about me when I was a drug dealer. But I used to go out to the reservation and buy my drugs, my pills, because they were cheaper, right? I know that they were made in a trailer. You know what I'm saying? That's where I would go get my pills, right? And it was wild to me that even knowing that niggas was getting it off of Amazon and doing these, and I was just like, wow, ain't shit changed, because I would sit in Rochester, Minnesota, cutting up dope, and I'll have bath salts that would UPS and the mailman would deliver from England, you know, London. That's where I would get on the phone and place my order. You know what I'm saying? The same way with my weed. I was getting legal weed from California, from Colorado, is because niggas would mail it from out there. I would know individuals that maybe they had this and they had that. But then when I met the white boy in Stillwater, who had his own grow farm and was doing it organically, and he had strains that nobody else had and were powerful. Yeah, I was all in it, and it would smoke better. So I was all in it, and I was a smoker. So, and the whole thing of it is, man, I was doing prices that people weren't even ready for. That's why I say support your local drug dealer, support your local weed man, not drug dealer, weed man. Support your weed man, because I am a weed smoker. I do promote safely smoking weed. I do believe it. And that's why it's so hard for these Republicans to get on board, is because most of us urban conservatives, we smoke weed. We smell like weed. That's the one crazy part. And I see that is they got to come in grips with that. You know, we want all this progressive ass shit, the new technology. Well, then let's get with the people, because we're all different. You know, I'm not down with the teaching kids about 72 genders, because in my eyes, you know, God made Adam and Eve. So that's two. I don't know no fuck about 72. You know, I understand this whole science and oh, I shouldn't say I understand it, but you know, I understand that people can be, and our Constitution allows for people to be what they want to be. That doesn't mean I'm here to judge them. That's not my job. My job is to make sure that my kids, when they go to school, aren't being led down a certain road. And I'm talking about propaganda, about agenda, because that's not what it's about. School is not about that. And when my mom comes over later on this week and brings my grades and my report cards, and I have some of that, but not when they were really marking it. They would just be like satisfied or you know, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But I really want to get into the grades and what people were teaching, because it was completely different. It was completely different. You know, I thought about that. You know, I will say that I really thought about that, and so I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I was going to get into this tomorrow, because I want to talk about Action for Liberty, and I'm still going to wait to do that tomorrow, and that's a Republican Party, but that's a party that calls out. That's a faction of a party that calls out people in their own party. And I'm not saying that I agree with everything that Jake or Eric Morton or and any of them that would all everything they be saying, but I agree when it comes to calling out certain things. Just like when they had Alex, I wouldn't even know about half the shit that's going on in the Republican Party if I wasn't watching Truth Hurts. I wouldn't know if I wasn't connected with artificial intelligence, and I didn't even know it. I didn't even know that Jewel was artificial intelligence. And then when I was getting sources and, talking about Ron Edwards and talking about Don Allen and Spike Moss and Sharif Willis. And, I was asking the other questions about Jamari Rice and John Thompson. And there was a lot of shit that was said. There was a lot of shit that was said. That's why I go through Jewel's articles all the time, her website, because it leads me down to other places like the Minneapolis story or Johnny Northside. You know what I'm saying? So then I start digging through 990 forums and, doing all this extra shit. Why you niggas still do out here and ain't nothing changed? It's only gotten worse. So you're not a leader because you're leading us into bullshit. I look at nonprofits like BLM or NAACP, AMLI, A Mother's Love Initiative, 21 Days of Peace, We Push for Peace. It's all the same. Because how are you not GDs, Vice Lords, Crips, Bloods, Trays, Lows, Bloods? Come on, man. It all leads back to that shit. Y'all really function. That's why I meld people. I mean, not meld people. When I talk to individuals and I want them to understand what I want to do, I don't want to be a nonprofit. I don't want to be structured like that shit. I don't want to have, I'm okay with a mission statement and a vision and all that because I do have a vision. I want to make my community better. I want to make it better than what it is, than what it has ever been. Because y'all niggas out here talking about make America great. How? When Los Angeles is burning, we got a whole motherfucking winter storm that niggas ain't even prepared for. I went to the grocery store. Oh, man, I'm just getting in the rant. I need to stop. But there's so much going on that people aren't even aware. People aren't even awoke. And people need to be. But y'all yet call me a conspiracy theorist when I'm out here only being informed and researching about the things that I want to learn about.
Or fictional account or narrative. Now, to me, that is a perfect description of what this area on the bluff means to Red Wing. It is the background, the setting, and the scope of accounts of history, whether they be real or fictional, in our town and area. Many paintings, yes, paintings, have adorned the bluff, with the majority being the rite of passage for a few brave students each year to paint their class year proudly on the bluff. There's been memories of loved ones, sports teams, patriotic symbols, current events painted in this area. There's been controversy. There's been marriage proposals, political statements, and even a pot of gold. Now, if that doesn't sound like interesting history, then I don't know what does. So myself and 4 others have formed our own committee, only because that was step 1 in the process, to propose a change in the wording of the said current graffiti policy of the city of Red Wing. And we'll start the petition process to have the city place it on a ballot and allow the citizens of Red Wing to make a deciding vote on what is to happen with the bluff. As you see, I did not use the word tradition. This is more than that. You can also see I never even called it Barn Bluff. To myself, it's just the bluff. And I would say that most people of Red Wing, it is that. It's just the bluff. The bluff that we hike, climb, bike, and admire.
It has a sacred history.
Pages are sticking.
That's your fat ass.
The bluff that we share with everyone. The bluff that we photograph and the bluff that we paint what is important to not only us, but our area. People from all over look up to see what is painted on the bluff every time. I got 3 more sentences. People look up to see what's painted on the bluff every time they come to town. Residents who moved away, returning to visit, want to know what is on the bluff. The artistic paintings have been placed in this small area of the bluff, are part of the fabric of our community, and just like a canvas, I hope this fabric is allowed to continue for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I can't stand them because that's the whole thing of it is. And just like Reverend Tim Christopher said, it's all about, that's why I call it CRT. Because it's critical. These people think that by changing history, you can be critical to other people to think your way. How is that not critical? How is that not critical? Before Minnesota was ever a state, there was already a treaty in place. So why are we in, this was 2018 or 2016, I think, maybe it was 2018. Yep, 2018 in September. So how are we discussing something, debating something that isn't documented? Because you can't read it because our public education was more worried about workers than thinkers. You don't want to do none of that. I understand it, and that's the problem, is that we're too desensitized to pain and to drama, right? And just like Reverend Tim Christopher says, they want to rewrite history. It makes them feel better, and that's why I call it critical. Because if they can rewrite history and play it and say it however free speech way they want to, instead of actually the true meaning and definitions and how it happened, we'll never get any place if we allow these people to just do whatever they want. We have to stand up. We have to stand up, right? So I want to get into, before I'm going to leave the Minnesota political theater for the last, but I want to get into the LA fire, right? A man-made disaster. That's what I believe, right? I'm going to say, with everything that I've seen, I would say that's a man-made disaster. It's not a natural, because you see all these 3D, the direct energy weapons, you see bases being broken into, and all types of shit. So it's like, when are people actually going to believe and see what's happening and put two and two together, instead of everything being a conspiracy theory, when actually doesn't need to be? It just needs that people need to understand is that we have a situation, and let's come together and let's figure it out. Right? It doesn't make that you're crazy, or that you're insane, or any of that, right? It just means that you're uninformed, that you've been led and programmed. I'm going to say this: programmed to believe, indoctrinated to believe one way, instead of being a free thinker and thinking for yourself. Is because I see a lot of individuals with titles that only think one way. They think a way that they were told to think. And that's crazy to me. So I want to get into the catastrophic fires that continue to rage in the LA area. So I'm going to keep on talking about this story every day, not for likes, not for engagement, but to inform and educate people so that we can become better. Once we know better, we can do better.
So the editors of the Free Press publishing a new piece titled Paradise Lost. The burning of LA is not just a natural disaster, it's a man-made catastrophe. As we look at these extraordinary images in Granada Hills, California, Barry Weiss is founder and editor of the Free Press, and she joins me now. Barry, it's great to have you with us on set. Obviously, this is a story that raises so many of the questions that William just addressed and that you all speak about in your editorial today.
Right. I mean, no governor or mayor can prevent 100-mile-an-hour winds. No governor or mayor can prevent Santa Ana winds. This is part of LA, right? LA, and you could argue that LA is paradise, but built to burn. I mean, it's extraordinarily dry. There's tons of brush. There's lots of environmental factors that we can get into. But the reality, and I have lived in Los Angeles for the past 4 years of my life, the reality, as anyone there will tell you, it does not matter if you identify as a Democrat or Republican or an independent, is Los Angeles is being governed, and the state of California is being governed by people who have lost sight of the basics of governing. They have lost sight of the idea that we pay you a tax so that you take care of basics for us. And nothing could be more basic than preventing the burning down of, as you just said in your introduction, an area twice the size of Manhattan, right? It's hard to conceive of how big this is. I woke up to text messages. Almost everyone we know has evacuated their home. We know people that have lost their homes. And the reason that there's so little trust, and the reason that you saw in that clip that mother confronting Governor Newsom with such rage, is because there's so much that led up to this moment. There was, just to choose one example, in our neighborhood, a middle-class neighborhood in LA, not particularly fancy, the police, if you called them for a robbery, and there were many, many robberies in our neighborhood, they would take an hour, sometimes 2 hours to show up. It had become almost like Brazil. It had become normal for middle-class people, upper middle-class people, to pay for private security, despite the fact that they were paying enormously high taxes already. So was it the fact that, The city cut the spending in the fire department by 17 million? Was it the fact that they were spending more on homelessness initiatives than on preventing fire? Was it look, I don't know. What I know is that the broader context in which this fire is happening is a context of total incompetency and leaders who are putting niche luxury issues, ideological issues, over and above the most fundamental things, keeping you and your family safe from crime, keeping you and your family safe from fires.
That's the job.
That's it.
That is the job. The job, when you think about the president's oath of office, it's, it starts with national security, with keeping, and so at the local level, that is exactly what it is too. And I'm curious what you think about the larger movement that we see post-election. And I look at Gavin Newsom there, and the brilliant piece by the editors of Free Press, which should be a daily read for all of us, talks about Rudy Giuliani. Now, he couldn't prevent the buildings from falling down, but what did he do afterwards?
He stepped up.
You talk about the Santa Ana winds. You can't stop 100-mile-an-hour winds, but you know that they're there and likely to come in this environment. They're not, this isn't an unprecedented situation. So, talk to me about Gavin Newsom. When I see him standing there talking to that woman, I'm thinking, what's his
I'm
future?
thinking he's never going to be president. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking this is a person who is not, catastrophes happen, and then what leadership requires is meeting the moment, right? There are clips going around Twitter right now from on Joe Rogan's show from years ago, where I think he's interviewing a fire expert in California. They are talking about exactly this scenario. Are you telling me that Joe Rogan, who's living now in Texas, knew more about what could happen in the event of a terrible fire than the governor and the mayor of California, of Los Angeles, who was in Ghana when this happened, despite the warnings? People look at that and they think, I don't trust these people to do the very basics of protecting me. Again, this is not about Democrat. It's not about Republican. It is about basic competency. And anyone who has lived in California, which is, in my view, the most beautiful state in the union, it's paradise on earth. And yet it's being run by people who are making who are allowing apocalyptic scenes. And I don't just mean the fires. I mean, there are neighborhoods in LA where homelessness and drug addiction is just so rampant. And again, I just think that they've lost sight of basics. And part of what the vibe shift more broadly right now that we're seeing is about Americans' demand for just common sense and policies rooted in reality. Policies that don't allow giant swaths of one of America's greatest cities, the 5th largest economy in the world, to be burned to the ground.
You brought up, just quickly, John Lindsay, who was also a presidential hopeful. And I think we have an image from 1969, a huge snowstorm that swamped New York City. And these are the moments when you look at someone like John Lindsay or Gavin Newsom and you say, are you the leader that can take us into the future? Are you the guy that makes us feel better when something like this happens, that it's all going to be okay and that your tax dollars are at work in an effective way?
Right. How can you feel that way when California can't build a high-speed rail, when they can't do the very basics? So it's really hard for people to feel a level of comfort when you put Karen Bass up in front of a teleprompter, and rather than reading the website that people are going to, she just reads the letters URL. That's not comforting.
Yeah, no, that does not instill confidence in anyone in terms of the ability of leadership to help. Barry, great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you'll come back soon. Great conversation. And
it does show you. I mean, here's the thing of it is, you look at California fires, right? I'm not telling people to be this to believe me, right? But put the pieces together. You see a naval base, right, that tests direct energy weapons. You've seen military vehicles, Humvees, equipment, and all those things being stolen. You've seen nuclear chemicals being stolen last month in December, New Jersey. You see all these drones. Oh, shit. You see these drones. Maybe y'all don't. But there's all these drones. And we're not getting into it, right? We're not doing anything about it. And that's crazy as hell to me. So I want to get into political theater because I believe it does matter. I believe that it does matter. And I want to show y'all something. Niggas don't believe me, right? So I said this to a state representative, right? I said, did I not meet with you and Walter at the Capitol about a committee for a fraud investigation? Yes. And it's being implemented. I said, thank you. Now can grassroots individuals who have suffered because of these failed democratic policies please allow us a vote we feel disenfranchised and not listened to? I don't mean any disrespect with you, Pam, at all. I'm attempting to get answers and change. I'm not, that's the one thing that I've learned, right? I've honestly have learned. I'm not the same person that I was in 2020. I'm not the man that I was. Man, I'll be the first to admit I was dumb. I was anything these niggas said, I went with. You know what I'm saying? I was one of the dumbest motherfucking. That's why I just observed and watched everything that was done. I just observed and watched, observed and watched, observed and watched. That's it. So that I can learn. And when I started seeing fuck shit, is when I was like, hey, hold up. This ain't right. No, this is first of all, this is wrong. And we have to change it. So there's got to be somebody somewhere, doesn't matter if they're low, doesn't matter, but it's going to take one person to stand up to their colleagues and to do what's right. So that's the way that I've always been. And I've always seen it as it's always going to be that one person. Who is going to be that one person? Because it's not easy. It's not easy being a truth teller. These people throw everything at you. They can ruin your life, all for telling the truth and that you want the truth. So I want to get into is that with a temporary tie, the Minnesota Senate also split closely along party lines heading into session, but also as well is that Democrat House representatives do not want to report tomorrow. and I'm going to play that.
Days away from the start of the state legislative session, there's been a lot of focus on the power struggle in the House. But the Senate has a thin margin, too, with the two parties starting in a tie after the passing of DFL Senator Kerry Diezdick last month. Here's Danny Spiewak with a preview of what's happening in the Senate.
Transcending politics, the Minnesota Senate will open on a somber note.
You feel it all over the place.
After the passing of former Majority Leader Kerry Diezdick.
A beloved member.
By Senate tradition, staff has placed a fresh rose on her desk each day since her death. It's a loss felt not only by the DFL's leader in the Senate, Aaron Murphy.
A testament to the way we think about each other.
But also by Senate Republicans and their leader, Mark Johnson.
And Senator Diezdick was a dear friend.
Diezdick's death also leaves the Senate in a 33-33 tie, pending a special election at the end of the month. The DFL is favored to win that election and regain the majority. But until then, sorting out leadership and committees will be tricky.
As we navigate that, working with Democrats, trying to figure out how we can get a great start to the session.
We want very much to get started. We don't want to lose time.
Especially in a budget year. While Democrats will try to build on their agenda of the past 2 years.
Like the child tax credit, universal school meals, free college tuition. We want to make sure we protect those things.
Republicans argue some of these programs have grown the government to unsustainable levels.
We're going to work very, very hard in figuring out ways that we can really make government more effective.
Although the budget takes priority, the Senate has plenty of other items to tackle. That includes a legislative package on stopping fraud, which the governor has already proposed.
None of us want public dollars to be stolen or ripped off.
We've been saying that for years and years. So we are more than happy to work with the governor and figure out a package that can curtail that.
The Senate opens with a floor session on Tuesday at noon. Also on Tuesday, DFL Senator Nicole Mitchell has a hearing in her felony burglary trial, a legal situation that has major ramifications for the balance of power in this chamber. DFL leaders in the Senate have said due process should play out, while Republicans have called on her to resign. At the state capitol, I'm Danny Spiewak, KARE 11 News.
Do you dream?
Don't people feel like we need a change in Minnesota? Like we need to be different, right? We need to I don't know what you want to call it, but we definitely need a change, right? We don't need just words. And isn't it funny? Maybe it's not. There's a lot of uninformed people. Because I thought about this, right? About everything, the drama that's going on at the state capitol through St. Paul, through Minneapolis. And I want to talk about this, right? I want to talk about the State House. So they made a press release because they were sworn in yesterday. They went on a retreat. I don't know, some retired judge sworn them in. That's not the way our Constitution actually, because they want to play a third game, right? Because I don't honestly believe that they will do anything by any means necessary, even if it is lie, cheat, steal, to win. They don't care about people. They care more about property and profits. So people have to understand what is happening to see it. And if you don't, damn, that's a pretty ass. I didn't even read that whole thing, but it's infatuating to me, or infuriating, is to see individuals that come out here and they want to be articulate, they want to be smart, but let's be educated, because if you're educated, that means that you're making sure that the people below you are learning. And that's what I want to do. So I said, let me ask a question, right? I said, wouldn't a quorum be 67 members right now? Because we have 132 until legally the judge makes a decision. Then it's on the Republicans to accept the results or not, in which I wouldn't in the Brad Tabke race, by understanding the Minnesota Constitution. Now, I'm going to do something. I'm going to ask Grok, right? Let's ask Grok. What does he say? What does Grok say? So, Grok said, the Post discusses the interpretation of the Minnesota Constitution regarding the quorum in the House, suggesting it should be based on the current number of legally seated members, which is 133, making a majority 67. It's not, but see, I don't believe that, because it does come down to the judge, right? So right now there's only 132 because, in my eyes, Brad hasn't been, even though he was sworn in yesterday, does that still make it where, because the judge hasn't came back with a decision, is he a part of that quorum? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's crazy as hell to me. So that's how I see it. We can get into Minnesota House quorum rules. Let's see that. Let's push that one, right? So based on the information provided in the ex post and related web results, here's a summary of the Minnesota House quorum rules. According to the Minnesota Constitution, a majority of each house constitutes a quorum to transact business. This is articulated in the post by Walter Hudson, where he mentioned, this is crazy. I love Grok. I love artificial intelligence. I know people think I'm crazy, but I love it. And maybe that's because of the interactions that I've had with it. This is articulated in the post by Walter Hudson, where he mentions that the Constitution states a majority of each house constitutes a quorum to transact business. This means typically with the 134 members, a quorum would be 66. However, with the current situation, where there are only 133 members due to a purger being banned from serving, the quorum would be a majority of 133, which is 67 members. The current situation, Walter Hudson's post highlights that because the resignation of Curtis Johnson from the District 40B seat after residency issue, the House currently has 133 members, not 134. That directly affects the calculation of a quorum, reducing it to 67. Legal and constitutional framework. The Minnesota Constitution and state laws do not define a quorum as a fixed number like 68 members, but rather a majority of the members currently sworn in are legally seated. This was further discussed in the context of the election contest involving Rep. Brad Tabke, where the final number of seated could still change based on judicial systems or decisions. So basically, that means that the judge, what's going on in that race between Aaron Paul and Brad Tabke, I've watched that pretty closely. I've seen numerous different things, right? I know that there was 20 ballots missing, but then I've also seen different posts and of lawyers. I'm not a lawyer. I've only got official intelligence and hundreds of GPTs that I'm very thankful for. But it's crazy, because why aren't more people educating themselves? Why aren't more people doing this to further themselves? They want to get on and be on these Twitter spaces, or, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Just like Elle Flowers is meeting with the Bush Foundation. We don't care. So what are you going to do with that? Are you going to make the Bush Foundation put money on the streets? Are you going to make the Bush Foundation put reparations in your pocket? The same thing I asked Chahun Cruz, right? Chahun Cruz, the leader of BLM. I asked the same thing to Chantel Allen, Nakima, any of them. You know what I'm saying? I will continually, until this day, and when I'm wrong, I will apologize. But until then, the things that I'm reading, no. You niggas are out here for a system to put money in your pockets. You're not out here for the people, because when the streets suffer, y'all aren't suffering. You're prospering. You're going on vacations. You're buying new cars. You wear shirts to events talking about you're never broke again. How is that possible when the community is suffering and y'all out here want to do backpack giveaways or hand out some groceries, that the only reason that you're doing it is because they paid you to. They gave you money. I was out here doing my own money, spending my own money, me and Marcus. Nobody was out here. That's the one crazy thing. The city of Minneapolis never gave me a motherfucking dollar. Never gave Marcus anything. The only people that have ever helped me has always been the people. So when we wanted bouncy houses, we were renting them until community members came together and we bought some. We bought over, July 4th. I remember that was crazy because July 4th, 2021, we did an event on 36th and Penn, and we shut off fireworks. That whole night, about an hour straight, we had a whole show for about an hour. And I was like, damn, this is what this is about. I mean, even though I knew and understood that, that was a DOC sex offender house, and I would see, we'd always see weird ass stuff going on over there, but we always minded our business as long as they weren't getting out of line and they were keeping it behind closed doors. We didn't care as long as you weren't fucking with kids and you weren't fucking with the community, right? You weren't harming the community. But ever since we left that corner, and we tried to go back before my stroke last summer, before, we had that June 1st, we kicked off Operation Hug the Block. We're on 36th and Penn. Then we went to we had 2 shootings back to back on Operation Hug the Block. On Lake Street and 12th, there was a shooting at the drug on the corner of Lake Street and 12th. This is all information that you can do a simple Google search. And a man died on 36th and Penn, not more than a couple hundred feet in front of us. Was shot in the head and they ran through his pockets. And it's like, damn, when are we like gonna call this shit out? And it's I was on TikTok scrolling and I seen a conversation between Philip Vance and Jermaine Ferguson. What a lot of people won't understand, or maybe they don't, is that Jermaine Ferguson is cousins with Khalil Azad, the man that was killed on Robbinsdale by the police, right? He drowned, he was beat up pretty bad. In my eyes, in everything that I've seen, I don't believe that water can do that to you. I don't believe that. And I'm going to this day, the same thing that re-ups Sir Major, Mr. the albino ass nigga, snitch ass nigga. Then we have Daryl Bassett. I don't care. I believe in what I believe in. And I always will believe in documentation over conversations. And I still believe in that. I will any day. That's the one thing. I go into these Twitter spaces and I have to go in privately because when they see me, they kick me out. And I've proven this. I think I got to be one of the most blocked nigga on Twitter, because anytime I go into a space or anytime I get into an interaction with somebody, sometimes people take it as disrespect and they block me instead of being like, I'm tired of these words, and stop taking it as a personal attack, because I got to live in this shit. So it is personal to me, but it isn't personal with every person, because I understand the system. I understand that you have handcuffs as well, that you have to live in a system and do the same things by a system. So it's not hard. It's not hard at all. It's not. You know what I'm saying? So if you're not paying attention to what's going on tomorrow at noon when the state session opens, are we going to have a house session? Or are we going to see something? Because I know this morning there was a press conference, and maybe I still have it up. They were having a press conference. You know what? Maybe let me see. I'll get on there. I'll get on Alpha News. You know what? I was already on there, I think. But there is there was a press conference this morning, and I don't know. Maybe I'll play some of it. I don't know how big it is. 5 more resolutions for a stronger Minnesota. Wow. Jim Schultz. I know there was a press conference. I'm trying to see if I can pull it up. Okay, so here it is, 18 minutes long. It's probably what I'm going to end my day off with. Yeah. There goes Alex. All right, we're gonna put it there. We see people a little bit, a couple people, but I'm gonna put the press conference in. We all know this is about the Minnesota legislator. They put up on a lot of, and I want to connect. Right? So we're gonna put this up. I'm also gonna put it in sign and share the petition. Please do. Please sign the petition. And I'm gonna. And there goes Pam. Hey Pam. I know she can't see me. She can't hear me. But there goes Paul. There goes Ryan. There goes Thad. And I know these niggas. Well, I don't know them like that, but I know them. So let me be quiet. And here we go with the press conference. So it ain't 18 minutes either.
Well, good morning, everyone. Minnesotans expect one thing from their elected officials: to show up and do the job they were sent here to do. That's a basic duty, not a special request. Serving in public office is a privilege, and it comes with responsibilities. Responsibilities that start with simply being present. Right now, some DFL legislators are making excuses, claiming they're working from home or in their districts. Let's be real, they're not sworn in. There's no official business they can do. It's a flimsy excuse to avoid their duty and answering to the people. This is about following the law and respecting our democratic institutions. Minnesotans deserve leaders who take their oath seriously and recognize the honor of serving their communities. Tomorrow marks the beginning of a new era in Minnesota. With Speaker Demuth at the helm, we will bring back accountability, fiscal responsibility, and good governance. The days of fraud, free spending, and hiding from hard votes are over. For those who refuse to fulfill their basic duty, we stand ready to begin the constitutional process of recall. We are committed to holding every legislator accountable. If you don't show up for the job, you shouldn't keep it. Now I'd like to turn it over to Attorney Ryan Wilson to walk through the legal process. Alex Plekish, Chairman of the Republican Party. P-L-E-C-H-A-S-H. His name Alex. Thanks for asking. Good morning, Ryan Wilson, attorney for the Party of Minnesota. Chairman Plekish will describe the reasons why over, if they find grounds, to a special master. The special master will review it, and then it'll go back to the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court decides that the facts and the legal basis is sufficient, that will then go on back to the communities to gather approximately 5,000, 6,000. If that threshold is met within 90 days, then the governor must order a recall election. That recall election will happen. If it's successful, an open seat will occur, a vacancy will happen.
Damn. This nigga line, the sound is fucked up, man. These niggas don't know what they doing, man. This shit crazy. Wow. There goes Pam. Hey, Pam. Y'all hear from Pam. Pam.
And as the session is scheduled for us to start tomorrow, from the House side of things, we ended the 2021 session with the Democrats forcing through what we call the Grand Theft Omnibus Bill. And Melissa Hortman was quoted as saying they had to do what they had to do to force their agenda through. Now here we are in 2025, starting out as a tie. They lost that tie because of cheating in District 40B. And now acting like sore losers are not coming. Another reason that I want to bring up that we are very concerned about is the Republicans in the House. We announced last week that we, as Leader Dama is elected to be the Speaker, that we were forming a committee to investigate fraud. In Minnesota, we have a huge fraud problem, and it's well documented. Over $500 million.
Go ahead, Pam. That's right. Talk about that shit. Let's get to the bottom of it. Jerry McAfee, Lisa Clements, Al Flowers, all these niggas. 21 Days of Peace. Terhan Pollard. Let's go, nigga.
So it's very concerning to see the Democrats refusing to come to work and for us to work for the people of Minnesota to root out this fraud.
Representative, could you spell your first and last name, please?
It's Pam, P-A-M, Altendorf, A-L-T-E-N-D-O-R-F.
Chairman, I'd like to answer any questions. Yep.
What do you have to say about what happened yesterday?
Well, we're still investigating as to what actually occurred. I only just heard about it last night, but I think the statutes are pretty clear about the process in which the new session gets sworn in. So it doesn't appear that they have done it according to the law. We will take a look at that. But as far as I'm concerned, people should be showing up to the session tomorrow to do the thing we've always done, which is to get sworn in properly.
Brian, can you tell us a little bit about what is the threshold? So you just have to get 25 signatures and then you can take it to the Supreme Court? And then what's the threshold for review, for letting it go forward?
Correct. So there's been several recall petitions attempted throughout the last couple of decades. I think almost every governor has had one attempted against them, typically under grounds of malfeasance, so failure to do their job the way that it should have been done. We're bringing this petition under nonfeasance, the failure to do their job, to do a duty of their job. We are hopeful that the Supreme Court will agree with our position, which is that one of the most basic duties of a legislator is to show up and to legislate, to be on the floor, to debate, to pass bills, to advance bills, to vote yes or no, not to run away from their duties, not to stay home, not to do the equivalent of running out and pulling the fire alarm to prevent a vote. Right. And so we believe that that nonfeasance will be grounds for a recall.
Right.
Your thought process is fascinating.
Man, I might have to go to the Capitol.
Isn't this really, aren't you trying, isn't this a threat? I mean, isn't it likely they'll show up for work at some point? I mean, isn't this just sort of you rounding your sabers?
We hope they show up for work every day, including on day one. And so, the Constitution allows, and this was passed in 1996, so that the people would have a safety valve in the event that their legislators were so derelict that their nonfeasance rose to a recall. And so this gives an opportunity for the people to speak up when their legislators aren't doing their job.
Have you found any evidence that this has been used successfully or unsuccessfully?
We've never had a situation like this in the history of the legislature, where 66 members of the office are unwilling to show up for work. And so this type of petition, since it was allowed in 1996, has not been brought on the ground.
Is it your position that what happened, you're a lawyer, is it your position that what happened yesterday is legal, or what, have you researched that at all?
Well, hot off the press last night, Minnesota Statute 3.05 certainly seems on point as to how legislators should assemble and be sworn in at the start of session. The Democrats claim to have other laws that they relied on without citing to those laws, so we'll see what their position is, but again, Minnesota Statute 3.05 seems pretty clear when the legislature convenes, how that happens, and how people are sworn in.
Thank you. I can't read that, so I'm going to ask you some questions real quick. Your grounds will be submitted with those 25 signatures.
Correct.
So you will lay out your case. And does the special master initially make the judgment as to whether the grounds are sufficient and then reports back to the Supreme?
There'll be an initial review by the Supreme Court. They'll then send it on to the special master who they'll appoint. That special master will look at that. In fact, they'll hold a hearing and they'll look at the facts. Did what we allege actually happen? Did it not? And then they'll send that back to the Supreme Court. They have a certain number of days to be able to decide whether the preponderance of evidence is met. All in, that whole part of the process takes about 51 days. And then from there, there are 90 days, assuming that the grounds are met, about 90 days for the signatures, 25% of the signatures in the district to be collected. If they're collected, a recall will happen, meaning people will vote yes or no, do you want to recall this legislator? If that passes, then you'll have a special election.
And your expertise now on governors calling special elections, how long, if the signatures are valid and it's certified, how long does the governor have to call that special election?
Well, there's two elections that will be called. One is the recall election, and then if that's successful, the special election after that. The special election has to be called as soon as possible, depending on the timing when all this happens, likely within 35 days of when a vacancy occurs. Yes, that's it.
And convening the recall election first, what's the time period?
I don't recall that, nor I don't believe that's defined in statute. I'd have to look again, but I think that's more open to the governor's discretion.
Won't the Supreme Court just dismiss this as moot because by the time that it gets to them, the special elections will have been held?
Well, there's a case to be made, and we'll certainly argue that the fact that you have not shown up for work multiple days, weeks, perhaps months, that nonfeasance is not cured by then later coming back to work. For example, if somebody an official chooses to embezzle money, and they embezzle for several days, but then stop doing it, the fact that they stop doing it doesn't cure what they did in the past.
Will they, do you think the Supreme Court would actually want to wade into what's basically a separation of powers dispute here?
Well, I mean, they have a constitutional duty to weigh in. That's what was passed as a constitutional amendment in 1996. Statute outlines the process for it. There are certainly thorny issues.
Man, so it's gonna get hectic at the Capitol. I hope that people are watching and seeing what's going on, and researching and have a clue, right? Get informed of what's going on. And man, we talked about a lot today. We talked about the treaty. We talked about lessons of history, Minnesota's political theater, fires in LA. Is it man-made? Is it natural disaster? Is it climate change? And then we seen Pam Lang, man. You know what I mean? We got into Pam's story, and I want to get her justice. I want to get her accountability, because the system does fuck people over, right? And it's always fuck the little guy. It's always, oh, we do this, we're gonna do that. So, with that being said, man, I want y'all to win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well, and y'all have a great day. Have a great Monday, man. Rejoice in it and bask in it. You know what I'm saying? It's your Monday. Do your thing. We're going to have a tough week. Tomorrow's going to be a tough day, but we're going to get through it, right? So win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well, and y'all have a great one. Still got that. Silence, a shadow in the breeze. Stand on my own, no favors, no pleas. My name's my strength, every ounce I own. Step out of line and you'll find I'm stoned. Still got that fire. This isn't a game, my words cut deep. Power speaks for itself. This isn't a game, my words cut deep. Crave trouble, or you'll get what you seek. This isn't a game, my words cut deep. Power speaks for itself. Truth stands alone. I don't need a crowd, I'm solid as stone. I know you might be mad, Cause I came up, you are, well, I won't change up. That fire, still got that fire. This isn't a game, my words cut deep. Power speaks for itself. Still got that fire. Still got that fire. I know you might be mad, cause I came up, you are, well, I won't change up. The OGs wanna talk, but I don't owe them a thing. Ain't done no business with them, don't even know them by name. Changed it, made it out, but the streets ain't left me. Still got that fire if they ever test me. Time's precious, I get it, cause I grind. Worldwide hustle, like the world's mine. Still got that fire, still got that fire. Still got that fire. That fire.
Testing.
Let us breathe. These breakfast. Oh no, justice. Follow these breakfast. Oh, we gon' make your life.
Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth.
It feels a lot like hell once you start to lose your brain.
All I know is no one owns me, baby, even though
I want us all to be released from your hell.